Today is December 9th, and we study Luke chapter 9.
Good job, Otis. So we start out Luke chapter 9, and Jesus is with all of his disciples. Otis, do you remember what a disciple is?
A student.
A student. Good job, bud. Give me knuckles. Boom. So he's with his disciples, and at this point he says, I give you the power to go out, to spread the good word, to heal those who are sick, and to remove the evil spirits that have taken people over. So they go out and set about. Now, they ask, what do we need to take with us? He says, nothing. Just take your faith with you. So they set out, and they start to spread the good word. You've got Herod Antipas, and he is the ruler over Galilee. And at this time, he is wondering, who is this man I keep hearing about? Is this John the Baptist? I just had John's head taken off. Now, the reason he did that is because John the Baptist did not like the fact, and he was outspoken, that Herod would divorce his wife and marry his own niece. So his niece, now his wife, does not like John the Baptist. She thinks that maybe a revolt will start. So she encourages her husband Herod, the ruler, to have John's head taken. So he's wondering, who is this? And people are saying, we don't know. Is it John the Baptist who's risen from the dead? Is it Elijah or one of the other prophets that's come back from the past? He is determined to get out and see this man for himself. Meanwhile, the disciples come back and they report all of their work to Jesus. And as they're gathering, the crowds start to come with them, and the crowds are growing. Winston, what happens?
A kid had, this was his lunch, and he had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish.
Yes. So, as the crowds have gathered, they think 5,000 people there. And the sun is starting to set, and the disciples say, should we tell them, Lord, that they need to go home? We don't have enough food for all of these people. And Jesus says, no. Are you kidding me? Haven't you seen all of the miracles I've provided? You don't think I can feed 5,000 people? Take the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, break these people into groups of 50, and they start to break the bread and the fish, and they start to serve it. And after everybody's done feasting, what do they have?
12 baskets still full of leftovers.
12 baskets of leftovers. Those are the kind of miracles that Jesus would provide on the regular. So meanwhile, now after this time passes, Jesus goes up into the mountains to pray by himself. And Peter, one of his disciples, joins him. And Jesus looks to Peter and he says, who do the people think I am? And he repeats some of the same things that Herod has already said. Well, people think you might be John the Baptist who's risen from the dead, or maybe a former prophet like Elijah. And Jesus looks at Peter and he says, who do you think I am?
The Messiah.
The Messiah, sent from God. So at this point, Jesus and Peter return to the other disciples. And Jesus starts to lay out what his death is going to look like. I'm not going to be with you much longer. Mom. So as he starts to go through this, he starts to tell them that, hey, there will be people that are going to not like what I'm doing. They will kill me. And when they do, I will rise from the dead in 3 days. He also says that you are either with me or you're not with me. If you're with me, the old you must stay in the past. You can't keep living your old ways while accepting me into your heart. So we move on from there, and you have got Peter and James and John, who have accompanied Jesus. And as they get there, Jesus starts praying, and 3 of his disciples fall asleep. And as they wake up, is that making you sleepy?
Yeah.
As they wake up, they see Jesus standing there. His face is glowing. His clothes, they say, are just a bright, dazzling white. And he's got 2 other figures by him. He's got Elijah and he's got Moses standing by his side. And you're silly, Arlo. And as we go through this, you've got a cloud that comes overhead, and a big voice comes down. And what does it say? Do you remember what the cloud says? From the clouds they hear a voice, and it says, this is my son, the chosen one. Listen to him. They then leave. And as they leave, they join a crowd again as they come down from the mountain. And you've got a man that runs over, and he says, Jesus, Lord, my son has been battling with these intense seizures, foaming at the mouth. All of your disciples have tried to heal him, and nothing has happened. And Jesus comes out, and he says something, and you really got to understand the context here. He says, you faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you and put up with you? Bring your son here. Now, when we dive into that, Jesus isn't saying that to the man and to that community. He is more saying that at his disciples. I gave you the power to go out and to heal. And you weren't able to heal. That means you're lacking faith. And he immediately heals this boy. And the demons remove from the boy's spirit, and the boy has now been healed and restored. From there, Jesus again warns his disciples of his upcoming death, because they are starting to make their march towards Jerusalem. That is where the death is to be carried out. So at this point, some of his disciples, they come to him, and they're arguing. They're arguing about who's greater. It's funny, they didn't have enough faith to heal this boy, but now they want to argue amongst themselves of who is greater. I'm the greatest. No way, I've performed more miracles. No, I follow Jesus the closest. And Jesus interrupts and he says, hold up, you guys aren't getting any of this. You're missing the whole picture. To walk with Jesus is to put yourself last. It is to serve others, to put others before yourself, to use your gifts that God has given you to serve others and to leave others better than you found them. Totally contradicts all of the disciples, right? His apostles are arguing about which one of them is the greatest, and they're missing the whole boat. So we go from there, and some of the disciples come back to Jesus and they say, hey, Lord, we're seeing other people, and they are trying to drive out demons. They are trying to heal others in your name. And we've encouraged them not to do that because they are not one of us. And Jesus says, no. To whoever's not against you is for you. How else does this kingdom grow? If this isn't meant just to, the good word's not just meant to be spread by the 12 of you. It is for everybody and anybody who accepts Jesus into their life. They have now been empowered to go spread the good word. What are you doing? So, we go from there, and at this time they are making their way all the way to Jerusalem. The Samaritans are kind of opposed to them coming through because they do not like Jerusalem. So Jesus continues to move along, and you've got people joining saying, we want to be a part of this movement. We want to come with you. And he makes it very clear. To walk with me is not going to be a comfortable life. You will be faced with challenges. There will be a lot of things that you struggle with. But it doesn't matter about our challenges here on earth, because you are planting seeds. You're making deposits that you will reap the benefits from once you get to the kingdom of heaven. And so a man comes and says, I want to walk with you, Lord. However, my father just passed away. Let me go bury him first. And Jesus says, no, let the dead bury themselves. And he's not being insensitive. If you understand the context at this time, a burial was something that would take place over 12 months. So initially the body would go in a casket. And then as the body would decompose and you're left with the bones 12 months later, they would then actually go perform a ritual and bury the bones. So he's saying, are you going to walk with me today? Because my time here is limited. Or are you going to choose to continue to go after your previous life and put your faith and your walk with Jesus on hold for a whole nother year? So that was the encouragement. You bury your old life, you're renewed in the new, and you follow Jesus. And that's how we close out chapter 9 and get ready for chapter 10.
Yep.